recording. Hey, we're live
We're
without an intro
live.
video.
Yeah. That was the intro video. We found it.
Right. Me musing to myself. Oh, you know what would be
We
cool?
should
Oh,
have.
never mind. Too late.
That would be something that would be amazing. Have an intro video.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just apologize to our 7 viewers or whatever, but ahead of time. But my son got expelled from suspended from his daycare. And so
What did he do?
uh, punched a little girl in the face. It's not even funny, but I can't not laugh about it because it's so ridiculous. Like, dude, why are you punching a girl? Like, why don't you
Why are
punch
you
a big
punching
die
anybody?
or something? He's like, well, she doesn't hit me back. I'm like, at least you're honest about it. So
Go for the soft targets. That's what I always say.
that's right. So anyway, so he may invade our space or our audio field here, but other than that, that's what we're dealing with.
It's like if you're gonna punch someone, just punch me and I can punch you back.
No, I don't want to do that.
Just make
He
it
does
easy
like,
for everybody.
to be fair to him though, he does like to wrestle. He just likes to roughhouse and stuff. And so I've been talking to Lo about maybe putting him into Taekwondo or something like that, where, hey, during this time you could totally hit hard, and here's the right way to do it.
Yeah, something that would involve some sparring maybe, or some grappling. Like maybe he would prefer shoving or pushing, because he's
Right.
solidly, like he might really like that
Yep.
more than the striking sports are a little different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a great segue into the multitude of topics that we have.
Oh,
People who are drawn to conflict.
Oh, it's funny. You're talking about our 7 viewers. There's a funny podcast or YouTube personality that's and also a musician out in Austin, and he does a lot of stuff on like Olympic weightlifting or whatever. It's and he'll start off his podcast with lady and gentleman. Singular, like, I'm sure there's a woman out here somewhere. It's like, I was
Right.
kind of crazy because, like, wait, I mean, the reigning Olympic gold medalist in female weightlifting for, I can't remember which weight bracket it is from the USA, like first time in forever. So you'd think there'd be like a lot of more female attention to the sport,
Right.
but especially since here, at least in the States, we've got some pretty high profile female weightlifters. But anyway,
Yeah.
who knows?
And is this a genetic female we're talking about, or
Yeah,
name
that's
it
one
and
of the
claim
things.
it?
Yes, she is. At least as far as we know.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Olivia Reeves. I saw an interview with her while she was kind of making the climb through the World Championship Series and stuff. And they asked her how she got involved in Olympic weightlifting, and she said that her parents were super into CrossFit, and so she wanted to do CrossFit since they were into CrossFit. And so some of the stuff that you do in CrossFit, I don't know if you've ever tried it or not, but they do some of the Olympic style lifts, like the clean and jerk, where you're pulling it off the floor and then pushing it up and all that. And so she thought, well, I'll go to like weightlifting class in high school. I'll try to join the team so I can get better at CrossFit. And it's like, and now you're the gold medalist in that thing. So,
dude, what an advertisement for CrossFit, right? Like,
yeah,
hey, join here, you never know what could happen.
The motivation's there,
Right.
Yeah. Where should we start? I mean, should we start with like the USAID stuff, the trans sports stuff, the Gaza Strip stuff? There's a lot.
I have I was hoping that we would get Amanda on here. She had texted me, and she can't. I would tell you ahead of time, but she had texted me earlier, and she's like, "I'm just so discouraged right now," and this is
what?
and I don't know because that's why I asked her. I said, "Oh, what?" And, politics. I was like, "Oh, well, you should come on the podcast and we can just talk about it in real time," And she's like, "You don't want me on there." And I was like, "No,
why not?
Actually, like, we're both pretty even keel people, but
we're both fans of hers, so
both fans of hers. Yeah. Well, she used to work for USAID. She was a contractor for a year, 6 months, something like that. It was not more than a year. went to Indonesia for like 2 months and basically did a bunch of lobbying work with the Indonesian government or whatever. So I suspect that her view of what USAID does maybe more on the positive side of things.
Sure, yeah.
Well,
because she had a really positive experience there, from what I understand.
Yeah. I do. I think. I mean, so we could get all into the nitty gritty of it. In fact, yeah, let's start there. Everybody's talking about it. I think just from a high level, I think it's astonishing to see the apoplectic response from Democrats on this. I mean, it's like I've been I've leaned left for 20 some odd years. I think, in fact, when the passage of the Patriot Act happened and we went into Iraq and all this stuff, that's when I was like, dude,
that's it.
I'm done with Republicans, man. I mean, just unreasonable search and seizure. I mean, that's a pretty old one,
Yeah.
And I never in a million years thought I'd see this just complete reverse of polarity.
Yeah.
That we're seeing right now. Like, I mean, for 20 some years, I've been arguing with my Republican friends about, the need for free speech. It used to be that was coming from the right. Religious people not wanting this, burn textbooks, whatever.
Sure.
It's like, okay, we need free speech. We need the government to stay out of our business. We don't need to be starting any of these, crazy, not any of them, but I mean, like, we should keep them to a minimum. Question the authority, right? Question whatever the authorities are. Like, I mean, yes, I appreciate that this is the official line coming out of here, and so let me go check it out. And it's
doesn't mean I believe it. That's a starting point.
I accept that that's the narrative you want me to buy, and maybe it is good for me, but let me go do my own research. I mean, these are core liberal ideas. And the freedom to choose what you do with your body, we're with abortion, but then also with, hey, do I want to take this vaccine or put this thing in my body? It's like, I have the right to choose. I'm autonomous as a human being. I mean, this is very core arguments of liberalism. The government cannot dictate what I do with my flesh.
Well, that's the thing, is that nobody forced anyone to take the vaccine. It's just you would be fired and unable to work.
But I mean, imagine if we did that.
Like, for example, how is that not forcing you?
It's just. I mean, I don't know. And it's not that there's a horde of people out here that are intellectually consistent. I mean, you've got these America First Trump people that are like, hey, we need to get out of Ukraine, and that's none of our business. But somehow, being 100% involved with Israel is our business. I mean, to me, it's like, dude, just be intellectually consistent. And literally, I was watching this podcast the other day. I think it was Piers Morgan had this guy on, this huge Republican. And he's like, can you explain this to me? Because Piers was saying the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I can totally explain it. President Trump has proven himself to be a much better read of this thing. And I follow what he says. I take his advice. I'm like, oh, so your intellectual consistency is you follow this human being no matter what he says. I'm like,
you just got to trust
that's
him.
also bizarre. It's like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of hero worshiping and all kinds of crazy stuff. But
not the response I would want from my elected officials. That way. Yeah.
And I just think, like, with this particular one, this USAID. I mean, I remember reading Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I think I turned you onto that book.
Yeah.
And, like, we've known most people that are in the know, you watch Jason Bourne or whatever. I mean, like, what a CIA cutout is. That's what that organization does. I mean, it's almost like public knowledge, Yeah. And
everybody knows it but us. That was the thing, is that this was common knowledge everywhere in the world except in the US. And now it's like people are looking around like, wait a second, we're doing what? What is this? What's happening?
Like, I gotta say, like, I mean, I mean, whatever. To me, Marco Rubio said it great, and Marco Rubio, what a transformation! I mean, that guy used to be a complete neocon hawk. We need to. They're communists. They're communists.
Marco. Who's this dude? I
but
like this
even
dude.
this guy's great. But he was like, I remember he was like, oh, we got to go. Colombians, they're communism coming in there. We got to kick them out. I mean, he was just like he saw communism everywhere. He's from Cuba, so it's like, oh, communism everywhere. And now he's just like, dude, why would we want to put money into stuff that's not in our national interest? I mean, like just some very basic stuff. So it's like, okay, we got 100 programs going on here. Let's figure out which part of the 100 we feel like keeping. It's I mean, it's a pretty rational approach. And it's like, and they've got this waiver process. So like if there's a program that's like, no, we really need this. This is what's doing here. Hey, great, submit a waiver. We look at it. I mean, they're turning these around like within 24 hours. So it's like people that are freaking out, they're spending more time going on TV raising a ruckus than they would just filling out the waiver if it was a good program.
Yeah.
So I just and this ridiculous stunt that they pulled, like you get all the Democrats together in front of USAID and this means war and all this stuff. If you watch
Shut down the Senate.
shut
We're
down
gonna
the
fight you in
Senate,
the streets.
fight in the streets because they're shutting down you. I'm like, dude, is this is the hill you want to die on? Like this
Well,
this spy show? This is
yeah.
crazy.
Well, I think that it is the hill they want to die on, and it's because
Because the first of many, I'm afraid. They need to
well,
get their act together.
no, well, so this is so here's my take on it. Okay. When the Trump administration 1.0, the 2017 one, comes in, from what I understand, there was just everyone was kind of shocked by the incoming administration. People were shocked by just the incredible amount of resistance that they met, and not just within their subordinates, but like from everywhere. It seemed like there's just like this constant barrage of attacks from every single corner.
They were proposing some outrageous stuff, and it was a different time too.
But it was not just that people would disagree on policy. I mean, they would have like this leak weaponization. They would have just all sorts of stuff. And what I think happened was when they were getting ready to go in for 2.0, they're like, okay, where is this stuff coming from? Who is orchestrating it?
Oh, I guarantee you they've been working on that for the last 4 years. They didn't just wait until now. They knew exactly where they were going. These are all surgical hits.
Yes, and I think that's what. So USAID. Well, I don't know what
it's AID.
USAID.
That's just a convenient acronym to make it seem like we're giving aid to people. Yeah.
So
it's the Agency for International Development. AID.
International Development. Yeah. Well, so they've been if you look at what the stuff that they've been funding, they'll set up these NGOs. So some of these are government organized non-governmental organizations, so a gongo.
Right.
And what these will do,
bongo, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll set it up and they'll put some people on the board of directors and they'll funnel money to them. And then that organization is technically not the government. It's set up by the government. It's run by the government.
It's funded by the government. Yeah.
But it's not the government. And so that organization is technically a charity. And so then what they do is that they will then fund other NGOs, which then fund other NGOs. And each step along the way, the people that are there, they get lavish salaries and all sorts of stuff. And then, but the end point of all this stuff a lot of it has been kind of the dirty tricks stuff. So it's like, one of the ones that was really fascinating.
What's crazy is now they have the audit trails on all these because they built this software out.
Yeah.
And these guys are getting all mad because it's like, this guy's only 19. It's like, well, he knows how to write a Python script and figure out
where find out where the money goes.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a lot of times you'll find like a lot of these different NGOs, these different charities, nonprofits, will all simultaneously fund certain projects. Mm-hmm. To where that project looks like it has 15 different donors or 100 different donors, but they're actually all
literally the money's been split up, and then it's been and the flow charts they've put out are just amazing. I mean, really.
Well, so it turns out that
if I had been listening to this, what you're saying, which I totally agree with, if I'd been listening to it without seeing these audit trails, I would have literally been like, dude, this is Alex Jones level conspiracy. I mean, you have really you got off the deep end. No, this is really, I mean, like, follow the money, man. I mean, Bob Woodward, man, follow the money.
Well, it's like the kind of stuff that you would expect from a money laundering operation, and
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Now now some of the places where it's gone. So like think about like some of the biggest resistance to MAGA stuff from
Which, by
within
the
the
way, just
yeah,
to press pause, by the
sure,
way, I really have no problem with any of this either. Like if the stuff that they're doing is in our national interest, great. Like I don't care that they're violating. I don't care. I mean, I'm so past this stuff. It's like, dude, we all know that these dark money organizations and intelligence service, of course, they do things that would be considered illegal, whatever. I mean, wet work, all these different like
sure,
if
sure,
it
sure, sure.
if it's pushing the ball forward down our side of the field, I'm a
Oh
fan. I'm not going to
well,
get tied up with that. What's crazy is what they're doing with it. Yeah,
yeah. So the kind of stuff that they would have been using, they would use these dark money elements in order to destabilize opposing governments or make sure that the propaganda that was, say, in favor of the US, or say if there was, say, a populist leader somewhere else that was talking about, say, cutting ties with the US or wanting independence or something like that, that they would
get
deploy
dirt
this
on them. Right.
to
Yeah.
make sure they're gone. All turns out that they were also using all that within the United States.
Right.
So William Crystal is a recipient of a lot of this stuff.
Huge recipient. Yes.
Politico is a huge recipient. And if you look back, it's like, wait, Politico, they were the ones that printed the leaked Dobbs decision case as a way to try to exert pressure on the justices not to do it. They had done, like, there were several really high profile things that
Where
they
they
had
got the
done.
scoop. Yep. And
And
now
they
and
not
now
only,
you have to wonder, like, well, dude, I mean, where
that
did
was
that get
all,
fed from? Yeah.
yeah, that's all sort of
Coordinated.
part of the CIA propaganda effort to destabilize the American uh, system of government, but only in one direction, right? So I think what had happened, this is my sort of read, sort of the 10,000-foot read, is that the um, the Democrats made kind of a Faustian bargain that they would rubber stamp anything that is going to be funding for the military industrial complex and the defense, not only the defense but intelligence community. They're just yes to everything, yes, yes, yes. And in exchange, they would get basically unlimited propaganda in their favor from all these organizations. So Politico one, New York Times another, NPR, the BBC. Like you can just go down the list.
Or
And
that
these are
other one that came out that you and I were talking about yesterday, the OCCPA, whatever it was, where I mean, they were the ones that were putting out all that anonymous testimony, and
yep,
somebody on Deep Background said this and that around the first Trump impeachment.
first Trump impeachment, but then
Yeah.
also things like, when they would say, well, we've done some fact checking, or here's a nonprofit research center that studies misinformation. They've labeled these sites or these people or these ideas as misinformation. All of those groups that were labeling them as misinformation were all funded through this system.
And I
So
think
like
too,
so
like,
like when you see misinformation, that's not some, think tank at a university somewhere independently coming up with this. This is instructed by CIA, deep state, whatever, funneled the money through USAID in order to make sure that these people, you're paying them off to do this thing, and then they produce the stuff. So of course they're out there marching in the streets for this, because this is the what do they call it? The quid pro quo. This is the quo, right? We rubber stamped your stuff. Here's our benefit, and now this other guy is taking away our payoff.
my air support. Yeah.
And some of this stuff is quite direct. So like, where one of those paper trails shows Chelsea, not Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton getting payments directly,
Millions
um,
of dollars.
millions of dollars. And so
Millions
it's like
of dollars.
one of those things where you wonder, like, okay, this person goes to Congress, they don't seem to have anything, and then 10 years later they're worth $100 million, and you're like, how did they get
How'd
all
that
this
happen?
money?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there was a speaking engagement that was funded by this charity organization, and you're like, a speaking engagement? It's like, no, that was funneling money from within the government
Yes.
to them.
And
So
here's the
that's why.
here's the thing too. I think just people, if people are listening to this and they're not really up to speed on these documents that are coming out, is just ask yourself a question, okay? Like, and this is coming from somebody who is not a Trump fan, not a Trump voter, not a Trump supporter. I really
Got to
not a
say all
fan.
those things. Make
Okay,
sure everyone knows.
but I need to put that out there because
It's like a land acknowledgement.
for example, I was a huge George Bush fan in 2000, 1999, 2000. I just thought
when he was governor of Texas.
When he was governor of Texas, and I was from,
Mhm.
I'm from Texas. We're from Texas. He was great. He was a great governor. I don't care what people have to say about him. He was a great governor. 70% approval with Hispanics. I mean, all this stuff. He was terrific. You know, conservative, but also, was for public funding of a lot of things that I think deserve to be publicly funded. I mean, he was just a very. I mean, I don't agree with everything he did, but he was good. I was a fan, right?
Mhm.
And as time progressed, when he was president after 9/11, the decisions that he was making, one after the other, it's like, okay, well, look, yeah, I'm a fan. Wait, well, why is he doing that? Why is he doing this? I don't know if I'm a fan of that, but because it's partisan and you're kind of like on that team. And if I'm not on this team, then I would have to be on that team. I can't be on that team.
Which team am I?
But over time, you're just like, okay, look. I mean, at some point, you reach a point where you're like, I can't be on this team anymore. Like this is outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And and I'm just pointing out, look, at some point, like the facts of what is actually going on possibly might matter to you enough to where I'm just saying to where you might check it out and see like what is actually going on. One of the things, and again, like there's a lot of really good points that are being made on the left about, let's say, Elon Musk, for example, right? So, I mean, the way it's being painted, caricature-wise, is a joke. However, there are some legitimate concerns there. Like if the script was flipped and Kamala had won, let's say, and then she unleashed what's George Soros's kid, Alex or whatever, right, the up and comer. If she just he gave a couple $100 million and she just put him in charge of basically going through the federal government with,
make it Bill Gates.
Well, no,
who's kind of a boogeyman on the right now.
Well, but whatever. That's all manufactured, in my opinion.
I know, but like just imagine.
I'm saying
like,
he's
not our
friend. This is a Soros would be like a bad guy, right? Like according to people on the right? Like he's unambiguously like, we do not want that guy in charge. He's like they're mad about him buying these radio stations, right? Which we got to talk about that too. Came out yesterday, but anyway, I would have problems with that. Like, I mean, so I get. As a non-conservative, I'm not a conservative, right? And I see these things that are going on, and I'm like, okay, so far I like all the moves that are being made. However, do I like the precedent that's being set? Do I think that if the situation was reversed or put in different people's hands, would I have this kind of positive response toward? Because underneath this, there's some systemic precedents that are being set that are pretty disturbing.
Sure.
Okay. And that's a legitimate criticism. I mean, it really is. I mean, if you're not saying that or thinking that, then, you really are, I mean, you're wearing 3 or 4 of the jerseys at once, I mean, just wake up and think about it. Okay. However, it's like, to me, in my mind, it's just balanced out in some ways by the fact that these things that have been going on, that they're getting sunlight on. And to me, I don't know who said it. Some governor in the South said that sunlight's the best disinfectant or whatever. Absolutely. Like you open the doors, you show what is going on, and you let the people decide, right? And people are pissed off. Like the more they keep publishing this, that's why they've been so afraid. Oh, he can't have access to these records and all this stuff, because as this stuff keeps coming out every day, people are like, what? Like you can't. And forget about, like, I mean, of course, some of these things, they get blown up. Oh, we're producing a transgender opera in Uzbekistan or whatever it is, right? It's like, okay, yeah, they spent $35,000 on that. Is it outrageous? Yes. Does it matter? No, right? I'm talking about like on a grand scale, right? The amount of money that is being funneled towards it, literally lining the pockets of people, and then turning around and providing that, like you said, this propaganda support. And it's not about the CIA or whatever. I believe they couldn't care less whether it's Democrats or Republicans or not. That is not what they want. Is they want to support people who don't ask questions, don't hold them accountable, and basically just rubber stamp whatever it is that they want to do. And that's why they're behind, Kamala and Biden and all these people that are obviously incompetent in terms of or unable to run things. Like that's perfect, right? It'll just be government by committee. You don't even know who you're
That's not a
talking
bug.
to.
That's a feature.
That's a feature of what they're trying to create. And I just feel like it's like, dude, if you just like open your eyes and look at it,
Yeah.
it's like, dude, somebody has got to come in here with a wrecking ball and smash it up. I just,
So you want to
it's
know?
outrageous.
You want to know one of the other kind of really funny ones? So, as you know, and the people who, the 7 people who watch our show, I try to absorb as much info as I can from all corners of the web. And one of the really funny, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory, but it's more of like a tag. So it's like there's a thing out there, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an organization, maybe it's whatever. This is this theory, but they're just sort of relentlessly pushing LGBTQIA2S plus stuff everywhere. Like any TV show, any movie, any book you read, anything like, and it's just like constant.
This
And
is this is this is the phenomena that you're noticing.
that they're noticing. This is what they're talking about, and that
Okay.
this thing, this blob of just pure LGBT, et cetera, propaganda. They call this is a really funny name, Globo Homo, right? So,
Wait, but who says this? Where is this
so
coming from?
Globo Homo. So this is if you go to like very hard right stuff. So like,
Okay.
right.
So that's not a real name. That's a derogatory name
That's a
that
derogatory name, right? So they're like, hey,
these
it's
right
like
wingers have come up. Okay, I
right.
got you.
So it's
All right.
like you'll be playing, you'll be playing solitaire on your phone, and there'll be a thing where it's like, oh, there's a new skin for the cards, and this is where all of the kings and jacks are wearing lipstick and stuff, to celebrate Pride Month, and you're like,
Oh, yeah, okay, I got you. Okay.
what the heck, right? It's just sort of everywhere. It's just pushed at you all the time.
But I mean,
And
hey, if you're gay, you might think, hey, well, good. Thank God
I
we're
want
being
the jacks
recognized
to
now.
wear lipstick too.
We're
Anyway,
we're being pushed to the mainstream.
yeah.
Which
Well, anyway, but
yeah,
it's kind of relentless and sort of annoying. Sort of collect them all. It's like you have to like check the box that at least one of the best friends of the main character is trans or something or non-binary, and you're like, why? Like, why is this such a thing? It's just relentlessly pushed. Well,
it's like that. It's like that show Bridgerton. There was a big to do about how
oh,
they switched the gender of from the novels. It's
yep.
and then
So
they
it
switched it so
adds,
they could be gay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, why would they do this? Why is this so relentless? Well,
It's
some of
culturally relevant. It's not relentless, bro.
so here's the funny part.
We may disagree on that one.
Well, no, I mean, like I said, this is just a funny thing from there. So one of the things that has come out of all of these USAID disclosures is so many of the ones, especially targeting other countries, were for things like you say, like the transgender opera in Uzbekistan,
Right.
or this or that, or grants so that there would be a higher level of inclusion in this or that product or whatever.
Yeah.
And
DEI initiatives in Serbia or
DNI
whatever.
initiatives
Yeah.
all over
Yeah.
the place. And so if you've worked on stuff that involves fairly tight budgets before, but like, can you imagine you know again, like take a video game company, you're trying to push towards getting this thing released, and you're like, hey, there's a charity out there, not an NGO, that is offering you $150,000 as a grant if you'll include such and such in your game. And so you're like,
Yeah. Because we want visibility for our. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and you're like, well, okay. And the thing is that all of that is coming from like this, like this money laundering operation. So they're like, we found it. Like we found Globo Homo. Like where they were thinking it was just some kind of, you know,
It's a
confluence of
mysterious
interest.
thing. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like,
No, it's not.
nope,
It's an actual agenda driven thing.
it's
Yeah.
USAID. We found it, and it's like it'll be interesting to see like funding for some of these projects. If this closure remains and if the State Department can manage its mandates or whatever, like how many of like I wonder if we start to notice a lot of these sort of just this relentless push just kind of dry up a little bit. It's like, yeah, I mean, if someone wants to write the transgender opera, they can write the transgender opera, but it's like they're just not getting subsidized by the US government through its shell corporations, like I don't know. That's one of the funniest of the outcomes of this is like we finally found it. Say the guys on the far right. We found
But that's so sad. So you're saying there's going to be fewer gay people represented in video games now?
it. It might happen. Well, it's also funny, like, how many of these have happened in a way that has been, like, anti-consumer. So
Well, or just, I mean, I, I
so
think I told you, I have a really good friend of mine who's well, he's not a close friend, but he's good. He's a friend in our social circle. Who's trans,
mhm,
and he was talking to me about, I got no, dude, whatever pronouns you want to, I don't care.
yeah.
Um, but he was telling me, he's like, dude, this stuff is like really pissing people off. He goes, I don't know as any trans people that he knew anyway were down with it, because it's like he goes, it's just putting a target on our back, man. We just want to be
Yep.
left alone,
Just wanna be
you
left
know.
alone.
We
Like,
just want
nope,
to be left
nope.
alone, and it's like, no, we can't do that,
No, we
It's
need to have a trans day of visibility. So will you please step forward and tell us about your experience? Like, I don't want to.
I
Like,
don't want to do that.
I just want to work, make money like everybody else. Like,
And again, I don't have a huge sample size. I mean, it's, it's just, that's an anecdotal thing. But I just think it's like, I do have many gay friends, and I haven't talked to. Um, I'm trying to think. I haven't talked to that many of them that are that up in our. It's like, dude, we want. It's like, we have gay marriage, we have equal rights. It's illegal to discriminate. I'm like, what else do you want? It's like, okay,
war's over.
now the war is over, but it's like, we can't declare victory, because if we declare victory, then there's no more money to raise for all the ways that we're being discriminated against.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, it's like the victory that I wanted is actually counterproductive to, and this doesn't apply to, gay people as individuals or even as a block. It applies to these special interest, money laundering organizations that are, i- in many cases, you're pushing out this whatever agenda they have. It's not even productive to the people that are supposedly represented, by them. It's like the teachers union. Sometimes it's like, dude, this is not helpful to public school teachers for you to take this position.
But it's
Anyway,
helpful to the union. The
it's
union
helpful
will
to the
do
union. That's right.
what helps the union.
That's right.
So
Yeah, that's
it's
I,
wild.
I would welcome. I mean, like, any of you guys that are watching either live or recorded. I mean, if you got other opinions on this, or you feel like we're missing something, I mean, we both. I mean, I'll speak for you, Russ. But I mean, we both welcome a counterpoint to this view. If you feel like we just totally missed the boat, I'd love to hear about it.
Sure.
I would just ask that before before you light up your keyboard, like, just press pause and go see if if uh if if the facts bear out. uh I I think the obvious interpretation, I mean, you don't have to be uh connecting the dots to, like, put this together. It's like right there on paper, the way these guys have put out the information. So it's one of the most, it's not really mind-blowing, because you're like, okay, you suspect that
You
our
sort of
federal
thought
tax dollars our
this was
federal
going on.
tax dollars may not be being spent the most effective way. I mean, everybody kind of suspects that that may be the case, right? But like, when you see this stuff, you're just like, oh my god. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and they're like, well, yeah, but these are just all around the fringes. Like, let's say they annihilate that whole department. Okay, it's going to save us $40 billion, but I mean, the real game is defense, Medicare. And it's like, and I agree. Yes, they could spend the next 4 years literally cutting every discretionary dollar the federal budget has, and it
Mhm.
really wouldn't even put a dent in, because I think something like 80 some odd percent of the entire budget is non-discretionary spending, eaten up by defense, healthcare, social security. And so it's like, okay, why aren't you, for example, you got your new secretary of defense in there, why aren't you going after the Pentagon? Right, that's the obvious question. And to me, it's like, okay, yes, and it's so small. Why would you start the very first fight that you pick, the biggest bully on the block, right? It's like, first you take out these easy targets that are just obvious. I mean, like, there are X accounts. I don't know about Blue Sky. I haven't been over there, but you have. I've seen so many X accounts of, like, Democrats, like left leaning, not elected officials, but like just left leaning pro Democrat people, like myself, who've like been voting Democrat a long time, who are just like, this is, I'm off the team. Like, this is outrageous. It is so ridiculous. And it's not even just that the programs exist. Like, okay, here's a program. Maybe that slipped through the cracks, right? Here's 1,000 programs. Maybe they all slipped through. Oh no, they didn't slip through the cracks. This was an orchestrated thing. So this was absolutely intentional, not a mistake. Okay, But now that
That's the
we're
whole
shining,
point.
so you missed the whole. Okay, so now this thing is being exposed, and instead of, dude, if I would, it's like the obvious thing to do is go, I'm outraged. I'm shocked to find gambling is going on in the casino, and we're going to put an end to this. I mean, that's what anybody like. But instead, they're like holding these rallies. We got to save USAID, and this is outrageous. It's like, dude, you're. How do you get on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue like this? Like,
Mhm.
80% of the people believe we spend. I mean, it's a fact. We spend too much money, and we're going in debt. And we're going to be broke soon.
Yeah.
Like, that's obvious. So it's like
Well,
80%. So it's like, what are you talking about?
it's a funny one because I have looked on Blue Sky on this one, and they have completely circled the wagons on it. This is like,
It's all
I mean,
being coordinated, though. It's Blue Sky.
well, I mean,
Twitter is a zoo.
it's
Blue Sky is not so much.
it's part of that ecosystem, and that ecosystem is still saying memes about President Musk. So they think that they're going to try to, by saying that enough, they'll produce a wedge between Trump and Musk, because like, no, I'm the president, and so he's going to fire Musk for
Right, dude.
engaging in.
I
And
heard that theory 4
yeah,
months ago. I'm like,
it's
that's
ridiculous. Yeah,
dumb.
but like
Dude, no.
they're still doing that, and they're like, well, we never voted for Musk, and it's like, yeah, he's an employee. Like, you never voted for the guys that were running the State Department under Biden either. Like, yeah,
Come
you
on,
don't.
man.
You only vote for the guy at the top, and then he hires people. And there's someone, yeah. But like, they're just like, the way they see it is like, well, the only reason he would dismantle this stuff is this is the final proof we all needed that he's a fascist, and that's basically where they're
Again,
right now.
okay.
No, I know. I don't understand that at all,
Well,
but that is where they're.
but just, I mean, again, like, just look at it. It's like, look, you're getting the government to spend less money on things. You are coming after things that are not working for America. It's like, and they're putting
No,
it
it's
out in front of
essential.
the.
Essential.
They're putting it out in front. They're putting it out in front of the voter. I saw somebody the other day. Some it was one of the guys that was one of the senators that was on the committee about RFK, right? That was
Mhm.
on the health committee, and I can't remember his name. That's just really pissing me off. he was very aggressively not down with RFK in the hearing,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
something changed, right? And now he voted to clear him out of committee, right? And so somebody's like, oh, his office had released some statement about, well, after a lot of talks and a lot of calls from the voters, right? He is going to let hey, he's going to let this one go through, and then we'll
Mhm.
wait and see. He's saying all the right things in committee. We'll see if he's serious. If he's not, they'll be held to pay, whatever, right? And then I hear all of these, like, these left wingers, like, oh, this is outrageous. He got pressured by his voters. It's like, it's a representative government. Like, you're chastising the guy for listening to the people that voted for him. Like, what are you talking about? That's what we do. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, imagine that, a government where the representatives actually listen to the people and do what the people are asking. It's just
It's
batshit
quite a
nuts.
concept. Quite a
It's
concept. Yeah.
bananas.
Well, and this is one of the things that I think has been kind of hard to watch on Blue Sky, is just the level of disarray. Like, there's no, like, during the Biden years, you had a really strong left wing component that was very focused on, and we should probably talk about this next. Really focused on the Israel-Palestine issue, and you saw a lot of focus on this, and very thought provoking and very consistent. And so it's like, okay, so there's an area that is being, really pushed, and there's a lot of cohesion on. And now there's just kind of nothing. There's like, we have to, he's a fascist, we have to save USAID, that's the only way to protect democracy. And it's just kind of like, who's
We
buying
have
this
to
stuff? Like,
we have to save democracy by not allowing people to practice it. Yeah.
it's really strange. It's really strange.
Okay. So pivot over there to we'll call it we'll call them, in fact, we'll just coin this zone of opportunity, or zoo for short. So the next zoo
Oh
that we are going to explore is the
Gaza.
zoo of Israel and Gaza. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
go.
let me start on this one. So
First
There
of all,
was
hold
a
on. Before you get into it, did you
yeah.
see BB's face when Trump said in the press conference what he said?
Oh, we'll
They,
take it over. It'll be
they,
amazing.
they had the view of Trump. You had the wide view of the two of them, and you had Trump, talking. And then, but when he dropped the bomb about, we're going to take over Gaza and build, the Riviera,
It'll be
whatever,
beautiful. It'll be
it'd be
amazing.
beautiful. We'll own it. Da, da, da. And there's another view that somebody has. It's on the internet of Bibi Netanyahu, and his
Like,
face. It's like so obvious that he had no idea that was coming. Right?
yeah,
Like it was. I could not stop laughing. I rewound it like 4 or
it's
5
great.
times. I have to
It's
send it
so
to you.
great.
Anyway, yeah,
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
um, here's what I think is going on with this. So I've seen a lot of stuff where it's like, is this a declaration of war? Is he planning to go door to door with the U.S. military and remove
Yeah,
people or whatever?
ethnic cleansing.
Yeah. So here's what I think is going on in the background. Okay. And this may be, I don't know. I don't think this is over charitable. I think this is because there's been plenty of times where Trump has said stuff like North Korea. Like North Korea could be the most amazing country. Like you could be, remember with Kim Jong-un where he's like, you could be like the father of your people. You just have to give up this and allow freedom and like people would love you. Everybody would love you. Like what?
Like for real, love you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't
Like
have to
what?
beat them; they would actually love you.
Why
Yeah.
won't you, what just
Why wouldn't you
like
want that? Yeah.
why would you want it? And so I think there's this same kind of deal. Like take a look at places in the world that had a lot of poverty and a lot of destruction, and how they were put back together and what it was like. So think about Haiti. So Haiti, they have been rebuilding Haiti my entire life. The entire
And they're
time
still a wreck.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah, they've been
still a wreck.
rebuilding. And it's like they'll build a building over here to distribute aid, but then everything around it is horrible, and so this thing winds up getting destroyed, and then they'll rebuild this over there, and then they'll build a road, but then the road is, trashed by whatever, because it's like you never, it, you'll never do it that way, and so it's like, well, we could make Gaza into the next Haiti, where it's like, all right, let's go ahead and declare the war's over. We'll get the ceasefire, and congratulations, two-state solution. Here you go. This part is yours, and we'll help you start rebuilding it. Like, we're not going to leave. Like, okay, you don't have to leave. You stay put. We'll rebuild it around you while you live there. And that's basically a guarantee that you're going to get Haiti 2.0. You will then always be forever rebuilding Gaza. And so I think he's thinking to himself, like, this is right there on the Mediterranean. This is an amazing piece of land. This could be the next Dubai. There is no reason why this couldn't be the next Dubai. Why not get started on that? Let's get a ceasefire. Let's turn everything off. There's all this unexploded ordnance everywhere. It'll take us years to go by one. Instead, if we just remove everybody, we could demolish the whole thing. It's already demolished. There are no buildings that are habitable.
Just carpet bomb it.
It already has been.
Yeah,
It already has been.
blow up all the ordnance by dropping some more bombs.
Like we'll clean it out and then rebuild it, and it'll be rebuilt into something that the whole region can be proud of. That'll be yours. And
so you think it's actually a serious proposal?
Well, no. So here, I think it is,
because I don't at all. I think it's absolutely
just
like
a ploy.
It's a gambit, because you saw what happened. Well, anyway, go ahead, finish your theory.
Well, so I think it's like first of all, if you're saying, okay, I really want something, if you're sitting there going, like, we really need to solve this for the Palestinian people, like they need something. It's no good for them to just be living in terrible poverty in this war-torn country forever. So if you really wanted something good for the Palestinian people, we would actually do something like this. And so really what I want to know is, why don't you want to do this? Right? And so then, because if you looked at the proposal, it was like, okay, they're going to be settled in these other areas while this is being built. It's going to be funded by Egypt and Saudi Arabia. It's going to do this, and it's just like, there's going to be a demilitarized zone that is going to be patrolled by the British. Like the United States isn't going to have a piece of it. That was it's like, yeah, I mean, we'll bid on the contracts for rebuilding, an open process, and Maybe we win some, maybe we don't, whatever. But like you know, if we really want to do something with this land, you know, why not think big? Why not make something amazing? Why not make the Paris of the Mediterranean?
Right. It used to be Beirut. Now it'll be,
Right.
Gaza.
But it's like because I think right now most of everybody, and this is one of those change the conversation kind of moments. Most of everybody's thinking like, okay, how are we going to fund relief work forever?
Totally. Well,
And it's
so
like,
like,
what? Come on, like
yeah.
that can't be the solution,
Well, I have to give it when I first heard him say it, I wasn't even paying attention to it. I had the TV going, and I hear this press conference, and I'm like doing something else.
Like,
Oh yeah, I was trying to debug my Linux box, which was driving me nuts. Me and the AI have become really good friends the last week. But
trying
anyway, yeah, and literally that's exactly what I did. I was like, "What?" And
to.
then I'm listening, and I'm like, "Hold on, rewind," and yeah. Anyway, play over there. Yeah. Um, no, I think it's yeah, I think the people that are talking it down, first of all, bring up a lot of like legit concerns. I mean, that is
Oh, sure.
to displace millions of people. I mean, that's the definition of ethnic cleansing. So, I mean, it's I don't, no, it's got zero chance of. I think what he did is actually this, because I was watching the dynamic. After I get done, maybe, but if you keep interrupting, it's going to take like forever. Um, So I think because if you watch the body language too, because I went back and was like, what is he thinking? Because it's such an
Mhm.
outrageous proposal that, like, I mean, of course it's going to get pushed back, and he knows it's like, oh, here's something else to distract everybody from RFK and Tulsi and Cash
What
Patel
about this?
squeaking through their confirmation hearings. Let's distract you with this. Look at the bird. Look at the bird. James Carville. Um, but I think if you watched his body language, right? Like he even held the chair out for Bibi when they sat down in there. I don't know if you saw, but
Mhm.
it was very much like if you watch it's like, dude, it's such a master class in controlling a meeting, right? Like I was just like thinking of it in terms of like the CEO I work with, one of the guys that in charge of one of the companies I work with, he's notorious for this, and it's just really kind of funny because it's like, oh man, this is so interesting. This is the same exact tactic. So he pulls out the chair for Bibi. They sit. They have a great conversation. He's like, yeah, da da da. What are your concerns? This is what we're concerned about. But we got your back. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Right? We're gonna work it out. It's gonna be all fine. Then they stand up for the press conference, and then he just pulls the rug out from under him. you know, and because you could see his face was like, what's going on, right? Like Bibi and his whole crew, like their whole objective is it is ethnic cleansing. They want the Palestinians out of there. They want to take over the land. They want that to be
They want
Israel,
to
right?
annex Gaza as like just resettle it, as far as I can
But
tell.
right, but they don't want
Right.
the Palestinians there. Like the whole.
Right.
And you and I talked about this a while ago. But for those
That's
people
what it seems
watching
like
that
to
haven't
me. Yeah.
aren't privy to our previous conversations, like it's very obvious. Like these settlements are all illegal. They're totally against you can make whatever rationalization you want for it, but they're illegal settlements. They're against the agreements that they've agreed to. They're trying to push the Palestinians out. They can't annex them just writ large and say, okay, you're part of Israel now, because then they would be outnumbered by the Palestinians, and they wouldn't, how are we going to have a representative government? You have to have some kind of apartheid state, and
Mhm.
that's the whole thing that's been slowing this whole thing down. They don't they don't want to take the needs of the Palestinians into account. They just want the Palestinians out of there. And
Mhm.
likewise, the Palestinians don't want the Jews there. They want them out of there. And so, like, and we've talked all about that. Like but Hamas doesn't exceed Israel's right to exist. Yeah, and Israel doesn't exceed their right to self-determination either. So it's like, well, yeah, but at least they don't want them dead. It's like, what's the difference, man? Like, this is not this
They
the
both
effect
want
of
each
it
other dead.
the effect of it is the same, right? Yeah. I don't want you here. You don't want us here. And it's basically like the only difference is that we've got nukes and the American government on our side. So it's like
Mhm.
at some point, it's like, okay, of course they're going to throw rocks and blow them. So they're not going to know other weapons. Anyways, the So that's what Netanyahu and his government want, is to take over that land. And meanwhile, the all the other Arab countries, like over the past like several years, have really, except for Iran, have basically like, look, we're tired of this, and there's a lot of business to be done together. Everybody's making a lot of money there right now. Dubai, all these places, they're rolling in cash. They got all this foreign investment coming in. They just want that to keep going. They're like, look, yes, we're Muslim, and no, we're not going to change our laws for you. And yes, we run things this way. But if you're going to do business in our country, just accede to these, guidelines, and well, everybody be cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's been the tone that has emerged over the last decade. Well, they're all of them are basically like uh, uh, looking for some kind of, not Israel themselves, not the government of Israel, right? But the people of Israel, the people of Palestine, and the Arab countries around them. They all would love to see some kind of solution at this point.
Sure.
Like they're kind of over it, right? And not just like, yeah, we'd like to see a solution as long as it's this solution. They're kind of like, what can we, they're all of them are pretty open minded about it. Okay, so he comes out with this outrageous plan, right? To basically, we'll take it over for you. You guys can't figure it out. We'll take it over for you.
It'll be amazing.
We got it. It's going to be awesome. We know what we're doing, and you guys just chill out, and we'll come in here and do this.
It's going to take 3 to 5 years tops.
I can promise you that like every single one of those governments, right, is
they're all like,
what wait a minute. We don't want that. Hold on. We'll get back to you. We're gonna come up with something else.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah. That's all that's going on, I mean, it actually gives, I mean, I don't like this because I think Netanyahu's a war criminal and he deserves to be prosecuted. However, it gives him a lot of cover too, going back home, because when they basically forced this ceasefire on him, like it's the hardliners in his government that objected to the ceasefire. Like people are like, oh, Trump's this master negotiator, whatever. And yes, I mean, he said that whatever the guy's name is, who's the dude, Steve, whatever.
I don't remember.
But it's not that he had to hold Hamas's feet to the fire, right? Like they've been begging for the ceasefire. It's holding Israel's feet to the fire to get them to basically like, okay, press pause here, bro. This ain't gonna work. And they're pissed at him, the hardliners. And so now he's like, guys, we got to get our act together. They're going to come in here and take this thing over, right? If he plays it right, which
he's a very skillful politician.
He's smart. He's a smart dude. I mean, diabolical in my opinion, but I mean, he's smart. He's not where he is because he's dumb, So it's like, I mean, they got an agenda. It's aggressive, but I think it really creates a lot of different openings and possibilities. Even Alan Dershowitz was on TV yesterday talking about he's like, look, I mean, this is the first fresh idea. He goes, I'm not saying it's a great idea, but I mean, he's the first fresh idea from somebody with any guts to actually follow through on it that we've heard in decades, Yeah.
Well, and like I said, that's the thing about it that I like the most, is that it changes the conversation to
resets the conversation. Yep.
It resets the conversation, and it gets everyone's mind off of the endless aid scenario, where it's like, okay, you get your 2-state solution, but you're basically always in poverty, and they're gonna, every year or so, someone's gonna ignite something that blows up, and this hospital, people are, and there's like sick kids everywhere, and they're like, well, another aid organization is going to be going in, and it's just like the permanently disadvantaged poor people in that region. It's like, let's think bigger. How can we get something that's not that? And yeah, I don't think this particular plan is going to happen. I mean, it could, but I really doubt it.
Everybody would really have to screw the pooch for this to even. I mean, there's no way. First of all, there's no way that an America First president, voters, all the people that are behind, stop the wars, get American boots up. There's no way we're sending Marines or anything else in there to clear out this area. No way. That's happening.
I think the way that it would work, if something like this was to happen, is if the countries around that area all agreed. So, I mean, if you had the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Syrians, if they were all like, okay,
yeah,
we'll do it. Let's resettle people. Let's do this the right way. And if America was like, awesome, we're just here to help kind of put the thing together. We have our own problems back at home, so
Yeah,
we're really rooting for your success.
I think more than anything that let's call it a floater, whatever you want to call it. I think floater, I think a giant turd, but anyway, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, but I think the thing that floated idea, pardon me, that proposal really did is to unify everybody. That okay, we definitely don't want that, right? Like, I mean, it's and I think dude, that's oh well, finally we all have something in common. Let's get our heads together, right? So I think that's the purpose of. If I had to guess, that's the purpose of that thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's a fascinating one though. I saw
Yeah.
some people that really were flipping out about like he's threatening to invade kind of thing. It's like I don't think that's what's going on.
Well, it's the same people that are like, oh, he's
But
threatening to invade Panama. He's threatening to invade Greenland. He's threatening to do whatever.
invade Canada.
Invade Canada. It's like, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, well, let's do the tariffs now. So you just brought up Canada. Yeah. It's so much. It's so much. It's just like, oh my gosh.
The tariffs. So there's a couple. So the Canada ones and Mexico
Let's just
ones
do
have already
Canada.
been reversed.
Yeah. Well, let's do
They've already-
Canada, Mexico. Yeah.
Okay. So those
They haven't been reversed. They've been paused for 30 days.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of conflicting information about how big the concessions were that he got back in exchange.
Basically zero. Yeah.
Well, so the ones that have been saying basically zero have been, strangely enough, outlets that have been getting USAID funding. So, so I just don't know how much.
So I have to disagree with them now.
No, I'm just saying it's like in my head I'm kind of like, well, that's it's like Pravda in Russia,
Sure.
back in the Soviet Union.
No,
like,
I'm just saying objectively, right? Trudeau, that's an easy one because they already had the memorandum of understanding from back in November, I think, that they signed with the Biden administration. They were going to do these things, and everything that he mentioned was stuff that was in that agreement, with the exception of the borders are. So
well,
yeah,
and
even the way he phrased it, like that we have currently 8,500 agents are or will be on the border. We'll beef that to 10,000. Basically, it's all just tokenism.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like, on the other hand, like it also could be stuff as far as like timeline or what exactly their mandate is, and it's like, well, we were going to send people out there anyways. Like, yeah, but now they're getting these other instructions that are much more hard. So that's the thing. It's like it's one of those where maybe there's I don't think it's one of those like the right wing groups, Patriots.win is like he bent the knee, God Emperor, right. It's like I don't see that. But I don't see
that's not just Patriots.win. That's Trump's press secretary came out and said Canada.
See, I don't buy it.
I find that language like I don't understand how that's productive to getting you. Why would you say that? If you just got what you wanted, if you truly did get what you wanted, that's not the response you would have. The response you would have would be like, oh, we're so thrilled that we can work with our Canadian partners and more close. You throw out that kind of rhetoric because it wasn't that much of a win. So instead, we'll go ahead and like label it that so that we have the soundbite because the numbers don't. But I think all of this bickering over, well, was it enough of it or whatever, it actually misses the point. I think the actual point is that, and again, if you haven't watched Marco Rubio's interview with who was he on, CBS or one of the maybe it was Fox, I can't remember, but I'll find the link. He gave a really good 45-minute interview, and they were talking about Panama. They were talking about a lot of these different things, and he said something in there that I think actually kind of was a light bulb for me with some of these other things. Is that since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the fall of the Soviet Union, we've basically been in a unipolar world, right? Like the U.S. has been the unquestioned superpower on earth, and basically and for a little bit it made sense for us to use that position and strengthen ties with where we needed to and whatever. But along the way, so that's been what that wall fell down in 92, 91, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got years. 30 years. And in that 30 years, along with all the other good things that we've probably done, we've made a lot of pretty ham-fisted maneuvers on the world stage and we've lost a lot of credibility in terms of, especially with like human rights violations and all these lectures on democracy, especially these last couple of cycles. It's like, well, dude, who are you to tell us anything, right? So
Mhm.
we've really lost on the world stage. We lost that kind of moral high ground, which that's been a Democrat complaint for a long time.
Mhm.
And I think now Republicans are finally joining in on that because it's politically convenient. But whatever, I'll take it, because the fact is we're not in a unipolar world anymore. Like China has gotten so ascendant, Europe has gotten so ascendant, and then you have BRICS and all these other like kind of nations and confederations, whatever you want to call them, coming together. That you really have we're coming back to a multipolar world. In fact, we've been in a multipolar world for probably the last decade at least, I
Mhm.
would argue. And so what
Well, now it's
Rubio
time to compete. It's different.
and Rubio's like, look, so we just need to acknowledge the reality that we are not the global hegemon anymore, as some Bill Crystal might have said, 30 years ago. We're in a multipolar world, and we need to reset these conversations. It's not like, hey, these are our allies, and so we're just going to like wink and nod, even though we don't have the best deals with them. But hey, they're all on our team, and so we have to, we're the daddy, so we got to look out for our,
Mhm.
our baby chicks here. It's like, look, that's just not the scenario anymore. And the scenario now is, hey, we're a nation competing with other nations, and we've got to act in what's best for us. And frankly,
Mhm.
as a taxpayer, and I think this is the thing that is just, it just really kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I think a lot of people that look at what Democrat leaders right now, or Trump opposition, whatever you want to call that, the cluster of people that are, whatever he says is I'm not down with, right? If you're in that camp, it's like, look, dude, like at some point you got to look at, okay, this is not your money, right? It's oh, he's cutting our funding. It's not your money. It's our money. And
Mhm.
if the taxpayers are sending their tax money in, and the taxpayers are voting for people, and they send them up there to do, Chip Roy's been saying that here in Texas. That's Chip Roy is crazy, but but I really love his style because he's like, look, what have we done? Like I came up here, I've been here for now. What was that speech that he made was just awesome. He's like, I've been here for 6 years. He's in the House. There's 3 elections, right? Been here for 6 years, and we've done absolutely nothing, right? And because it's like, no, let's raise the debt limit, pour more money out there with no accounting, no accountability, no audit, no nothing. And it's like, at some point, like, and I feel like for whatever reason, we just got lucky enough to where, I'm not saying we got lucky to get Trump. I'm just saying like the crew that is together here for whatever reason, right, is actually interested in delivering some results and some
Mhm.
accountability and some sunshine and some visibility to these things. I don't care whose team they're on. I'm like, dude, that needs to happen. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you're uh, if you find yourself like listening to this, or you're like, oh, I'm anti-Trump because Trump's this and that and the other. Dude, first of all the negative characters, I agree with you about him as a person, like in terms of how I would characterize him, not a role model for anybody. However, it's like this is the crew that actually has responsibility for your tax dollars for the next few years. Would you want them to do what they're doing, or would you want them to be continuing to shovel money out the door without asking any questions, and at the same time hiring another, what was the thing I saw from a couple of years ago, 80,000 more IRS agents to make sure they get more of your money
Yeah.
to burn on this stuff. So I just to me, that's where that tariff thing, to me, I think that's kind of what he was. I don't think, it's like we're going to impose all these tariffs, we're going to raise all this money, and then we can do away with the income tax. I see these right
Mhm.
wing,
Yeah.
wet dreams they're having over there. That's never going to happen. First of all, it's not good. We can have a whole nother episode why it'd be a really dumb idea. But oh, Amber says, why are you under the assumption it's transparency? Well, Amber, what's the opposite of transparency? Right? Is
Obfuscation.
obfuscation, opacity, like a complete black box that you pay your money into, and the money gets shoveled out the door on stuff you don't even know is happening. Like at the end of the day, like they're publishing. If you just go look at what they're putting out, they're publishing the audit trails of where this money is going. That is
And
transparency.
that's the thing is if you like where it's going,
Yeah, if you like where
then
it's going, just celebrate it. Hey, I
it's
love
awesome.
that.
We
We should
want,
have
look,
more
I
of
mean,
that.
look at,
Right.
we're finally funding things that are valuable. Like, great, but if you don't, then I mean, wouldn't it be better for us to know?
Wouldn't you want to know that? Like if we were funding, let's say, look, let's say we were funding uh, fascist governments or whatever, or child slavery rings or whatever. Like, wouldn't you want to know that? Like that is transparency. Is it embarrassing to some people? Yes. Is it like, oh my gosh? But yes, we were paying for the sex trafficking over here, but we were also getting vaccines to people over there. So you just have to keep everything together. It's like, why? Why don't I just get rid of the stuff that I don't want and continue doing the stuff that I do want? It's like I don't get the just complete knee jerk reaction of uh, Republicans, Trump bad. I mean, again, I've voted for Republican in decades, right? I'm just saying, like, to have that kind of knee jerk reaction is not. Um, I don't know. It's just. I think we could do better than that.
I'll tell you, and we'll have to wrap up here pretty soon, but
Oh, just when it was getting fun.
I know, but there was something funny that I was watching on, I think it was Chris Williamson's podcast, and he's talking about men's issues, and one of the things he said is that anybody that wants to talk about men's issues, and not issues that with men, right? So it's not like men are bad, not that kind of
Oh,
men's issues, but like we
oh,
want to look and say,
things that men would care about. I got you.
okay, well, things that are
Should
that
be
like
important to men.
their struggles, right? So like the fact that the male suicide rate rivals, like the more men will die of suicide than women will of breast cancer.
But those are
That's
white men. Why do we care about that?
that's fascinating, right? But there's all sorts of things like that. And
Right.
he said one of the things that is happening is that if you want to bring up any of these, you have to give, and he called it, and I love this metaphor, he called it the land acknowledgement. So if you ever go to, Washington State or Canada or whatever, and you go to an academic meeting, the person will get up there and is going to read a paper on, something that, a Platonic theory about whatever. And he said, before I begin, I would just like to acknowledge that we're holding this conference on the unceded land of this tribe, this tribe, this tribe, and this tribe. And
They do that
oh yeah,
at meetings you go to.
oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and then, but that's the thing is like if you go
Not
see
in insurance meetings. We don't do that.
if you go to any like anything in Canada, especially like a government thing, and you only see clips of what happened. But if you want to watch a whole speech, they almost always start with, "Before we start, it's important to note that acknowledge that this land is the unceded land of such and such." Right? They didn't give it to us; we took it. We're invaders. And all that.
They do that in America sometimes too with the Indians or what, like, hey,
Yeah,
we displaced this
this
tribe
tribe,
or
this
what.
tribe,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
tribe,
yeah.
it really is theirs, and we're here, and so it's really wrong for us to be here. But we got to acknowledge that before we continue. And I'm going to still give the talk. I'm going to still make my points, but
We're still going to
just
build the dam here, but
yeah.
just
But
want to
this
let you
is
know.
we're
Yeah,
invaders,
yeah,
and
I
it's
got
really
you.
important that we acknowledge that we're invaders. And he said that's basically happening whenever you talk about men, right? Because if you say, well, now I know women have all sorts of really difficult issues that they have to deal with, and gender pay gap and all that. Um, and then you can start saying, and men are dealing with massive homelessness, like something like 80 or 90% of homeless people are men, and like that seems like an issue. But you have to do the land acknowledgement first. You have to acknowledge that actually the real problem is that women. But now that I've put that out of the way,
Mm.
and I whenever I'm around,
It's like what I've said 3 times in this interview. Now I'm not a Trump fan,
yeah.
but like this
So
is,
I've
yeah,
noticed this in political discussions
that's
now. Is that
interesting.
when
We're just going to stop doing that going forward.
when
So
someone
here's
when
what it
someone
is.
wants to say anything positive about what Trump does, whether they voted for him or not, or whatever, they're like,
Yeah.
now first I'd like to acknowledge that he's a convicted felon, 34
Right,
convictions,
right, right,
and
right, right.
he's
Yeah.
probably a terrible person, and now, but here's something that I think it might have some merit.
It's
So like the
amazing though
land
that they didn't.
acknowledgement.
It's amazing they didn't feel the need to do that in Kamala's campaign when they
No.
would talk about Liz Cheney. It's like, hey, now we understand Liz Cheney, has supported the da 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 da, and her father was a war criminal and Darth Vader, but we're really appreciate her support. Nothing.
No,
No
no,
land
you have to
acknowledgement.
do
That's
the land
interesting.
acknowledgement for Trump. So I just decided, because I've caught myself doing it. And so it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to stop giving the land acknowledgement.
I think what it is, it's so interesting you bring that. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I totally do that. But the thing is because I'm shocked myself that I find some of these initiatives positive, right? It's like,
Oh,
I was pretty sure I was going to be upset at most of the stuff you guys came in and did, right? Like, I was pretty sure that, I read Project 2025, not a fan, right? Not a fan.
What
I mean,
kind of dystopian? I was about to wear
I,
the red handmaid tale dress
yeah, I
myself.
was ready for the patch or whatever, the black spot on Twitter. Yeah, I was ready, but hey, I was here for your first administration and you were pretty much a clown. So, all the bragging about the greatest economy ever. I mean, like, I can do math. That's not true. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, if I don't care who you are, if you come in here, dude, Sheikh Ogre has been saying this very well, founder of Young Turks. I mean, he and I are basically the same age. I think he's 50. I'm 40 now, I'll be 50 in a couple months. He's like 51 or 52. Huge liberal, right? And he goes on and says, look, these Doge guys, am I a fan of Elon Musk as a person? No. Am I a fan of Trump as a person? No. Do I like the fact that they're going in here saying we're going to gut the military industrial complex? Yeah, I do. I am a big fan. So,
we haven't even gotten to the military yet.
We haven't even gotten to the military yet. They're already cut. He's like, oh, why in the world? You're a liberal. You want to raise money for liberal causes to, help disadvantaged people, make the society better, all the different things liberals care about. And he goes, here's some people coming in and they're actually making positive moves in the directions that you've been advocating for. But because it's them, you have to automatically go, bad, fascist. And then you have to like observe all of the technical things like, oh, I don't, do they even have the power to do that? That's illegal. It's like, dude, you guys didn't care. Again, as witnessed by USAID's activities, you just break open the books and look at them. Yes, the stuff they do for aid and the AIDS, the PEPFAR and all these different projects, those are good projects. Great. We're talking about all the stuff that is not those, right? That they're doing. It's like most of these things are illegal when you bring them out and break it out. So it's just, but that's so interesting, man. I'm glad you said that because that was good for me. Because I just think, dude, we can just talk about the ideas here. I think, well, I don't know. Maybe we're ahead of our time, Russ. We're ahead of our time because we're just going to talk about the ideas here, right? But
here's the funny thing is, I noticed this. I was doing this with the Biden administration. There are some things that the Biden administration did that I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
And so
I'm glad to hear it. Good for you.
No, and so whenever I would talk about them, though, with a lot of my right-leaning friends, I would have to say things now I know that blah 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 Biden, who is even in charge. We'll just have to say the administration or the White House or whatever. And I'll say, but I like that they did these things, and then the other person will say, well, I guess broken clock is right twice a day. It'd be fine, But if I just said, oh, Biden administration did such and such, I really like it, then I would get some looks, like, are you one of them? And it's like, so I wonder if it's we got to do that because we're worried that people out there will be like, are you one of them? One of those,
right.
Are you one of those Trumpers?
Well, I've been accused. Yeah, I've been accused of quite often. I mean, like going back to September, August to September of last year of being red pilled or whatever. I'm like, dude, again, like I'm exactly where I've been this whole time. Like that shit you're doing doesn't work. This over here has a better chance. We're going to put our money on the thing that has the better chance. Like at the end of the day, like for whatever reason, these people have gotten elected, and if they're willing to work again, like, dude, it's like every bill in Congress has to be co-sponsored. Well, it doesn't have to be, but generally has a way better chance if it's co-sponsored by somebody from the other side of the aisle. Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley just co-sponsored a bill yesterday to cap credit card fees.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. So first of all, I'm a Bernie bro. I voted for Bernie, and I think Josh Hawley is an absolute tool. However, over the last
good idea.
Over the last 18 months, and maybe 2 years now, Josh Hawley decided he was going to stop taking PAC money. And all of a sudden, it's amazing. His views have like wandered right over here where my views are. So it's like, okay, well, if Josh Hawley is standing up, saying stuff that I believe in and I agree with, I'm not going to just start dissing him because he's late to the party somehow. Like, this is the party. Welcome to the party. Let's get a beer and party. Like, I don't understand. It's like, I don't understand. And by the way, it happens the other way too. Like you have Anna Kasparian, for example. Like, I mean, she came
Oh
out and
yeah.
was, right, and just got savaged by people on the left, right? And then you got people on the right, who are like, I mean, you should hear Steve Bannon diss Elon Musk because he's like, "Oh, we're not going to let these billionaires come in here and tell us what to do." At the end of the day, like, everybody is entrenched in their point of view, and it's like, instead of, when somebody comes over and starts agreeing with you, instead of saying, "Hey, good, welcome," we're like, "You're not pure in your beliefs because I've been believing this a lot longer than you have." And uh, Steve said something, Bannon said something like, when you get a new convert to the church, you don't just put them in charge and let them start speaking from the pulpit. They sit there, they shut up, they sit there for a few years, they learn, and then once they're indoctrinated, then they can start potentially getting some leadership positions. I'm like, Steve, this is not beanbag, bro. This is
Well,
politics, and I will
politics
take whatever alliance I can find.
politics is not religion. Like
Right.
that is lesson
Well,
number
it is to
one.
Steve. It is to Steve.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, in reality,
Freaking fanatic.
yeah, yeah. If you want fanatics, then great.
Yeah.
If not, if you can say, well, hey, look, it looks like we may not be aligned on everything, but we're aligned on this, and we're aligned on this, and that's the thing that you're being put in charge of, then what's the problem? Like, why do we care? I mean, think about. I'll tell you, if Gabbard and
Hold on.
Kennedy,
Hold that
yeah,
thought. Amber, I love you. And thank you so much for your comments. And by the way, like, please keep commenting, keep throwing up, "Hey, I disagree. I did," whatever, whenever you do, because that like, you just commented on that Oranges movie. Russ, I don't know if you took a watch at it, but it things like that, all of us need our perspective broadened. And to me, that is the core tenet of being a liberal, is that, like, hey, walk a mile in their shoes before you start, crapping all over, their situation or whatever. Just because you don't understand it or it's not in your world doesn't mean it's not real. And so, to millions of people. So, uh, very valuable feedback, and I appreciate your attention and the fact that you're here and that you're involved in the conversation, because we learn from each other. So anyway, go ahead, Russ.
oh, I just forgot what I was going to say.
You were saying Gabbard and
Oh, and Kennedy, yeah.
yeah.
If those two get confirmed by a Republican majority Senate, I think that would be, I think, a good lesson for everyone. That, like, you don't have to agree with someone about everything in order to work with them on stuff that you do agree with, and that's, I think, I know it's
I,
like,
I,
well, that should be obvious, but it
I
isn't
I don't.
always in this
Yeah,
world.
I think in this context, it's not obvious anymore. I think it's like, look, people miss the fact that, like, okay, look, you don't have to. First of all, the last HHS secretary, I don't even know what they were about, frankly. Like, I mean, yeah, I've watched some of their public
Admiral, what's
statements.
her
I,
name?
I, I'm not trying to be negative
I
at
don't
all. I'm
remember.
just saying, like, look, the people run organizations that, maybe I might agree or even care half of what they say. What It doesn't matter. Like, with RFK specifically, or just, like, think about this for a minute, right? You have a Republican president who is nominated for the first time, and I don't know how, I mean, we're talking 50 years. They've nominated a pro choice HHS secretary. Okay. You got a Republican to nominate a pro choice, a lifelong pro choice HHS secretary. Okay. Uh, Whatever you think about all his different views, I mean, most women that I know, including myself as a lesbian, um, I'm a lifelong lesbian. But most women that I know, right, like, that is their number one issue, is choice. And you've got, for the first time, a Republican putting a pro-choice HHS secretary up, and it's like, um, you know, people, for decades, it's been Democrats saying that we need to look at fluoride in the water. It's been Democrats saying that we need to look at the potential connections between vaccines and all these different mental health issues, et cetera. Democrats have been saying that. Okay,
Mm,
for decades. I mean, you can go look it up if you don't remember, whatever. You haven't been paying attention. I mean, that's a fact, right?
yeah.
And it's been Republicans that are the ones that are like, uh, you stay in the lane, listen to the smart people. Like, I mean, that's and this is a massive flip. And now you have it's not like these are brand new Democrats that are voting against these people. You know, I mean, what's his name that's in that committee? anyway, I'm blanking on names, but it's shocking to me. It's like, man, just take the win. Like you,
Yeah.
I
Your
don't, I don't,
ideas
I don't.
won.
Your ideas won. Like
They're being
it's,
implemented by the other guys. That's okay. Your ideas won.
but I think that's not okay. And by the way, I fault Republicans here just as well, right? Like
Oh
Republicans
yeah,
could have
during
made
Obamacare, same thing happened.
during
2000.
Obamacare, even during this border thing, like I mean, we had a good deal on the border a year and a half ago. Finally, now you could say it wasn't that good, or it could have been, but dude, it was miles better than what was being done, and it was going to be passed. And you can shake your head, it's fine. We've had this argument before.
That's true.
On a scale of perfect to abject failure, it was a 6.5, 7, right? I mean, but it was better. It was better than what we had, and it was like, no, you know what? We need to vote against that because I need that to run on, or else I'm not going to be president again. And if you guys go do this, they'll be able to say that they took action on the border. It's going to take one of our weapons away, and it arguably is the number one reason that they won. At the end of the day, hey, the tactics speak for itself. It worked. They got into office, right? But it's certainly not productive for, I mean, it's bizarre to me that you would now declare an emergency on the board. If it was such an emergency, you would have done something about it 18 months ago when you had the chance. So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, both sides do this. It's just at some point, you got to just recognize when you're being played, and also give kudos to the people that deserve the kudos as they deserve them, and then call them out when they don't, because
Yeah.
that's the only way. It's a representative government. It's the only way we're going to get anywhere.
Yeah. True. Hey, we're ending on a note of agreement for the first time ever.
Perfect. No. We agree sometimes about some things.
No, that's been our problem. We've been agreeing too much. I got to get more angry. We need to start shouting at each other. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe next week.
We've managed to keep a few loyal viewers. We appreciate you. We love you. And Russ, is good stuff, dude. We'll have to do it again. I feel like we still have more stuff we could talk about, but
I know.
we gotta roll. We gotta roll.
Next week.
Next week there'll be even more. Exactly. All right. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.